Welcome, Ashley Bledsoe. This is Jody Morningstar and our podcast, 10% More Savage. Ashley Bledsoe is a sex and relationship coach, and she is also my friend. We are both enlisted, certified coaches.
In the
You'll learn,
house.
that's right. You'll learn more about that as we go, and don't be shy to reach out and ask questions afterward. So thanks for coming on with me, and I'm super excited to hear about your business and how you got into it and what a sex and relationship coach does and your experience of getting in there and being more savage.
Yes. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So you live in Austin.
I do. Yes, I am currently in Austin. I am living in a little studio. I guess it's more like an in-law studio behind the backyard, and I have landlords that are up front and absolutely love it.
That sounds gorgeous. How long have you been there?
Been there for about a month.
Oh, so you're new.
New. Mm-hmm.
How are you finding Texas?
Well, I'm born and raised Texan.
Oh, okay. So you came home. Where did you come home from?
Came home. So I was in Texas, then moved to Memphis, and then was in California for about 6 years as well. And then now coming back to Texas. But I grew up near Wichita Falls.
Oh, and how, what brought you to Austin this time?
So in the last year and a half, so for the past 10 years, I've been married and in the process of divorce and separation. And when I was really looking at where do I want to settle in, where do I want to start this new chapter of my life and really choose where I want to be, Austin just kept pulling me in. And so I have friends that live here too, so that makes it nice. So I wasn't moving in during COVID where I was going to be completely on my own and by myself. So I do have friends here, and that was, influential in the decision as well. So yeah, Austin just called me in and I was like, I'm in.
That sounds so nice. It sounds like you had a solid path that you were following, which is not always the case. So
it's very true. Yes. Yeah. It was, I actually moved here sooner than I thought I would. And it worked out perfectly. So
that's awesome. So were you already, tell us about getting into sex and relationship coaching. What brought you to that field in particular?
Yeah. So I started coaching couples and in relationships, specifically in communication, about 3-4 years ago. And it had a lot to do with with my marriage. I was married to Mike and we were working with Barbell Shrugged, and I was doing a lot of the retreat planning. And during those retreats, a lot of people would come in and ask questions about how we manage working together, and then also him traveling and me staying behind. And so I just started sharing, what worked for us, what worked for me. Started going to more authentic relating workshops and learning how to connect more authentically and openly. And then met Mark England, who changed the game for my language. And really that helped me in my relationship as well, and really open up our communication. And so I just started, I love everything about relationships, how we, relate in romantic, how we relate in friendships, soul family. And so I just started diving deeper into all of that. And I was like, why not make a business out of it?
When people come to you with questions in the beginning, when they came to you with questions, did that spur your personal growth? And also, was that a lot of your motivation, being really gratified to be able to talk to people about what was interesting to you, and then you pursued it that way, thinking, wow, I'm going to expand my knowledge base and be able to help so many people and share this knowledge?
Yes. So like sharing what worked for me, and then diving deeper into learning more about language, communication, our energetic, and just how to operate in that, how we operate differently as men and women in relationships as well. And so, yeah, it just had me go through my own deep dive into personal growth. And I would say really my marriage with Michael was a lot of my awakening experience. We both were able to have that process together and move through it in a lot of ways. And so I would say definitely learning to share what worked for me had me go into a deeper personal growth experience as well.
Did your partner participate in that relationship learning and growth with you?
Yes, we did. It was funny. He actually started it before I did. And so I was seeing how his look on life and everything was shifting. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm not sure about it because it's so different than what I've known my entire life, but I'm willing to try it out because of seeing how it was impacting him. And so really he was a catalyst in a lot of that for me. And then we just really worked on it together. We would do things on our own, and then we would also have, ways to develop in our relationship as well.
What did you see that was different from how you were raised or the ideas that you already had?
So I grew up in a Baptist family. My dad is a Baptist preacher, and so it was very for me. It was like I had the black and white, right or wrong, and I had when that started shifting, I was like, oh, there's a lot more to the story of right and wrong. That's just this one area, and I can choose whether I believe in this or not. And that gave me so much more freedom in a lot of way. So
Did you move past that that kind of set paradigm, that belief system, kind of move away from your family of origin and into a new realm?
in some aspects, yes. I started being able to choose for myself versus worrying about what my family may think. I definitely still consider a lot of what they believe and share. If they ask, I share, but I don't put it on them. I let them have the freedom to have their experience, and mine's a little different. And I also try to, how can I create, connection with our differences?
Has that been successful?
Most of the time.
Most of the time. That can be a tough one when you move on to other things and people are like, hey, where'd you go?
Yes. And really, the last 10 years, in relationship and marriage, I was seeing my family less just because we were traveling, we were doing our thing for a long time. And when we separated, I actually really got to spend a lot more time with my family because there was a lot happening, and it was like I wanted them, and they were there to support and to hold me in a lot of that darkness that can come from losing that relationship. And so in June, I actually spent a month with my parents, and that was the longest I spent with them since I was 21.
Wow.
And it was a lot of fun. We had our little moments, but it was overall, it gave me so much gratitude for them and my life with them being my parents. And I really just came back with a lot more compassion and really seeing that overall they just love me and they want what's best for me.
That's so beautiful. That's a great connection,
Mm-hmm.
especially because from what you've said, you already had a relationship that was admirable, and people asked you, how do you do this? And that was the catalyst from where you began. Mm-hmm. So you were already at a point and went down this path of improvement and knowledge and helping others, and your path changed. Can you tell me about that?
Yes. So yeah, So with Michael, we've always been a little outside of the box relationship, especially in the last like 6 years. And and that's really when our personal development and our growth started. And we love each other. I mean, we still do. And what we saw was there was these patterns, how we would relate with each other that we couldn't break in relationship. And so we had to completely dissolve that relationship in order for us to stop those patterns for ourselves and for future partners. And yeah, we just really saw that that was the way to be able to do it. Wasn't easy. And really it came down to, choosing ourselves in it, and supporting each other as much as we can in this process and in this new chapter for both of us. I think we had a lot of codependency, which happens in relationships. And even with this growth and, really knowing our language and this and that, we still were in those patterns. And so, yeah, we just were like, let's cut this completely and move in these different directions so that we know who we are as individuals, so that we can come back as friends and support. And then we have these most powerful relationships in the future where we feel like we're our most true self and we don't lose ourselves in our relationships.
And you supported each other in that. That's the ultimate love.
Yes.
I want you to do what's best for you. That's so,
Mm-hmm.
that's, how long ago was that?
We separated in March of 2019.
So just a year, little over a year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, went on a that happened, and I went on a eat, pray, love journey. So I ended up in Bali for 3 months, and in that, Michael also supported me. He's like, go and reconnect, heal, learn, and so I spent 3 months there, and it was a beautiful experience of learning how to be on my own and tapping back into my own sovereignty.
Nice word. Oh, that's beautiful. Tapping into my own sovereignty.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
like that.
mm-hmm.
It's funny how sometimes the most loving relationships are when you're not together. Do you think you're loving each other more now than you ever did?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Is that the type of knowledge that you are using in your coaching? Can you tell me about how you connect with people and what your coaching looks like?
Yes. So one that I try to do with couples, or I don't try, I work with, is letting them. So I think for me, what I learned is I didn't know what I wanted in a relationship. Like for Michael and I, we were dating for 2 years. And it was like, that was just the next step. So we thought, right? Like that's what we're taught and all this. And I didn't really know what I wanted in a relationship. I just saw what I thought I was supposed to have. And so really one of the things that I do when I'm working with clients, with people, is what is it that you want in a relationship? How do you want to show up? How do you want your partner to show up? What does it look like? What does it feel? Like really getting clear on that. And so then that's how you can communicate with your partner what you're wanting and what you're needing, and desire, what your and then it plays into our expectations. So it's like, oh, this is what I'm expecting, also having the freedom to let go of that expectation, but this is how I'm showing up, and this is what I desire. Can we meet with this? And then also learning what they want and finding ways to find those connections and deepening those bonds.
Do you work with people one-on-one? When you're working with a couple, do you work with them together and separately? And what kind of tools do you use for that?
I've done both, but mostly I work with them together. And so I'll typically have them go through some journal exercises where they discover what they're wanting for themselves, and then give them the option of sharing it with each other before they share it with me, or sharing it with each other as they're sharing it with me. So I let them, and that's part of it too, is like you get to choose how you want to to relate to each other and then relate with me as a coach as well. Like, I'm giving you guys the power of what feels best for your relationship. Here's some exercises to do, connect beforehand, or we can connect all together. And then I also have them do things like, doing 5 love languages, learning what your 5 love languages is. So then you can understand what fills you up most. Are you physical touch? Are you gifts? Are you words of affirmation? So then that's known for you. And then your partner also knows how to help fill your love tank up. Then I have them do other things like, taking the erotic blueprint quiz. And really that helps them discover what their sexual desires are, how to meet those, what they want. Because a lot of times it gets confusing. We might have a side where we're like, I have this desire, but I don't know necessarily what it is or how to express it. And so this quiz will help them learn what turns each other on, and then also how we can be turned off.
I bet that's a really powerful tool. Do you introduce that later, after you talk about the love languages and relating and those day-to-day relationship issues? Does it always go into sexuality, and also, do people come to you and that's their main focus?
It depends. Yes. So both and, I guess. Typically what I'll do is I work through communication aspect of it stuff. So I do communication first, and then I'll go into the sex side of stuff. So helping them really learn some tools and framework around how to communicate with each other, so that when sex does come in, it's really the foundation of communication is already there, so they can bring that in a lot easier. Because I think sex is considered, it's one of those things in our society, it's uncomfortable to talk about, taboo to talk about. And so really having a strong foundation and learning how to communicate in general, and then bringing that sex piece where it can be uncomfortable, can help the dynamic of sharing more openly and freely.
And you must be a really safe person that they feel they can open up to be able to communicate such intimate details between each other and through you.
I like to think that, yes.
You must be. The evidence shows.
Yes. I like to make it fun too, because it can get sticky. And so like, I really try to, and because pleasure, right? And like adding that into the conversation. So like really allowing it to be playful when we talk about the things that are uncomfortable to be bringing in play. So I like to think that helps people feel safe and comfortable when they talk to me. And also really looking at it, there's no, like, I really like to see myself as non-judgmental, and you can say any and everything and it's accepted. Like there's no right or wrong. It's thank you for sharing. So I really try to hold a space for people, for them to really share vulnerably and open, because then it just moves through things so much faster, and there's so much more healing when that can happen.
Tell me about this erotic quiz. Is that something you pull out to get the conversation going?
Yes. So what I like to do after we've done some communication stuff, I'll have them go in and take, and it's also a lot about self-discovery, right? Like there's understanding ourselves more individually allows us to communicate that with our partners, our friends, our family. So it's one of those tools that I like to use just so that people can understand themselves more and be able to share that. So yeah, I'll bring that out, and it's so amazing, because it's like, oh, I didn't realize that. When I was talking to one of my friends actually, and she was like, I didn't realize that when I'm, my partner's more sexual and I'm more energetic. And so a lot of times with energetic, if it's too much too fast, it's a turn off. And they're also aroused by like space and anticipation. So I like bringing it in, because then it brings in curiosity of like, ooh, what would that be like? Oh, how can we work with this? Let's play with it. It allows a little bit more play in the bedroom.
It's kind of like a sexual love language.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Realizations. can you give me an example of what the quiz would look like? What kind of things does it explore? Is it a straight up quiz, just questions to think about? What are some
It
examples?
it is. So a woman named her last name I forget, but her first name is Jaya, and she created the Erotic Blueprint. And it's just a series of questions, and then it will give you your feet, like it'll give you your score based on your answers, and it gives you percentages of each of the 5 erotic blueprints. And so there's energetic, sensual, sexual, kinky, and shapeshifter. And so it gives you a percentage of, your top ones to, your top to your least. And so then you can, then you have an idea of where you're at, and then you have an idea of where your partner is at, and you can play with, okay, well, these two, we actually have a lot more in common. So let's play with these. We know that we can really do this. And then this, maybe they're energetic and you're a shapeshifter. Well, this allows, you to find a way to play with each other and discover ways to like really, lighten up those. Yeah.
It sounds spicy.
It is. It's a lot of fun.
What are some good experiences that you've had with people that found things that were surprising to them or surprising to each other or even surprising to you?
Yeah. I think so one of the things I've learned too in this, because there can be a lot of sexual trauma that comes in relationships from previous relationships, and other things that come in, and it can play a role in our current relationships. Maybe we're not comfortable with something because it brings up this trauma that happened previously. And so what I've learned is sometimes when there's a big difference, I've worked with someone that had like a kink feel, and then there was more of like what we consider vanilla. So it was very, very different. And a lot of it was with the one that had more vanilla, there was some trauma that was there. And so there was fear in like playing into the kink side of things. And so really creating a container, teaching them to create a container to allow those explorations of kink. And really with kink, it's anything that's considered non-conventional in sexual practices. So it's a big umbrella, but that could be even, someone wanting their hands tied up, or wanting to be led around with a collar, right? And that could be uncomfortable with someone in, more of the vanilla, but it's like allowing a time to play and explore. My business and coach mentor, she calls it sexploration. So it's creating a time where you really create an environment where any and everything is okay to play and explore, and it gives opportunity to have some like oops or like giggles or like some fun in it as well, but really diving into that. So I say like with my clients that had that difference, it was creating that container and then being very slow and checking in. And that's where I like to do communication first, because in those things, you're constantly checking in. How are you feeling? Where are you at? What do you like? How does this feel?
And you already have the skills to communicate those things. That sounds really powerful, especially with the depths of trauma that people have. I mean, from assault to being raised in an environment where things are wrong and your body is shameful. I bet you've seen really powerful transformations of people that blossom and open up with this new realm.
I have, yes. And for me too, it's been one of the most impactful things. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about it, is how it's impacted me and my own journey of like letting go of that and really allowing myself to tap into my sexuality and being curious about it. And it's healed a lot of my own stories of letting go, and in that I feel like I experience more aliveness, more playfulness, more just everything, abundance.
That's fantastic, because then you're the role model. You're the example of, no, really, this is real and this works and this will change you, and here's my story. And you're this safe, strong inspiration to people. Have you seen relationships that just like explode and
Mhm.
blossom after this experience with you? Have you seen some good results?
I have, yes. I've had where, and this is where too, sometimes when there's a variety of couples that come to me, there's some that want to, what I like to call relationship insurance.
Mm,
So they're happy, they're good. They just want to be able to expand their relationship upgrade, right? And so this just blossoms them to a whole nother level of being able to be connected and play in their relationship. And then also know how to navigate the storms that come, because they do. It's part of being human. It's a part of being in relationships. So now they have a stronger bond of being able to move through them a lot faster. And then I've had couples come to me where they're, in consideration of divorce, or stepping out of the relationship. And where it comes in is like, I feel where what I do is I'll give them the things to help them navigate through all that. And in the end, they get to choose what they want to do, and they can choose it, powerfully for themselves, in whatever direction they decide to go. And it feels better than, like, whatever decision they decide to make, it feels better than before they came
because
to
they
me.
have the knowledge to make,
Mm-hmm.
they feel like, okay, now I can really make this decision with
Mm-hmm.
truth
We've
rather
tried
than,
everything. We're doing everything we did, and this is still where we feel like we wanted to go. And now we can make this with a loving, powerful decision, versus like this feeling of like not sure what to do, but this is the only option I think I have. No, let's step into this and see, and then really be able to choose powerfully what you want to do. And then some have stayed and blossomed, and yeah, so
have you, do you have it, do you have all different types of couples come to you? Married, about to be married, divorced even, or about to be divorced, or brand new relationships, um, maybe not heterosexual relationships, other forms of relationships.
yes, I do. So I have most people I work with are male female, and they've been dating at least a year. They're in, I've had it to where they're about to be married. I've had it where they've been married. um, I've had where, yeah, they're considering divorce. And I've worked with lesbians as well, lesbian couples. I've worked with people who are considering opening up their relationship and navigating through those and what that would look like.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Have you,
variety.
variety is the spice of life. They say that for a reason.
That's right. That's right.
Have you been invited to weddings, divorce parties, babies named after you?
No babies, no babies yet. No babies yet. I have been invited to some weddings. Yeah, yeah. No divorce parties. That'd be fun though. I'm gonna have a divorce party at some point.
And Mike's invited.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I'll invite him.
What does a session with you look like? What does it look like if someone were to call you and take you on as a coach? How does that start? What does that look like through the process?
Yes, so I have a couple different ways. Typically, I'll jump on a discovery call, and relationship clarity call, as I like to call it as well, and just see where they're at, what they're wanting, and then go from there. So I have a couple of different things. I do story work, which is what we did a lot with, in Lifted. So I'll do a 2-hour immersion around relationships, sex, and stories that we may have around that, and help translate those stories into more empowering stories. And then another thing I do as well is I have 2 different types of programs. So I have one where it's the relationship upgrade, communication code. So that's specifically just on communication. It's a group aspect. So we're in there together with other couples. And if, one partner can't make the calls, is still relationship oriented. So you're in a relationship. And that's more group where there's, modules they'll go through, and then we get on the calls and we talk through and move through anything that may come up, and giving some framework and tools to be able to use to deepening their communication skills. And then after that, I have one called the Relationship Upgrade Sex Edition. And so that's where we dive and do education on sex. Because really what I've discovered in my own journey with my coach, Alexa, I just learned I didn't know anything about sex. Our sex ed is growing up is mine was don't do it until you're married. Here's a condom. And so really learning about really putting in a lot of education around sex, like our own anatomy, how it operates, what it is, and then going into like things like, the erotic blueprint. There's even like a BDSM.org that people can take a quiz on and learn where they're at on a lot of the more BDSM kinky stuff. And talk about sex toys and talk about our cycles as women and how that influences and impacts our relationships, and how as couples we can use that to help navigate how we relate to each other. So that's really the second piece of the program. So I have two that they go into.
Are they a certain number of weeks long? Is it a weekly
Yes.
meeting?
So right now, both of these two programs are going to be in beta phase. So I've done one of them before, and I'm upgrading them. So the communication code will be 6 weeks, and then the sex edition will probably be 8 to 12 weeks. Really
It's so gratifying that you are out there educating people, and that because everybody wants to know these things and people are not usually willing to talk about them freely.
It's a scary thing. I mean, it can be, right? It's very uncomfortable. That's what we're taught in society, is like, even when you're married, you still are hush hush on sex. It's just in the bedroom. And so like I want it to be where sex is, my thought is, how can I help normalize sex for anyone and whoever, however they connect with that, but make it to where it's so normalized. It's like we talk about our favorite restaurant. It's like, it's just a part. I mean, sex is why we're all here.
Don't tell anybody but my mom and my dad. You know what they did? Ew.
Right, like, but it is, so it's like, let's have that as a part of the conversation. And I think with that, if we learn a lot more about sex and have the education around it, it gives us more power to be able to choose what feels right for us. I didn't know a whole lot about sex growing up, and then when I discovered it, I was like, whoa, and I just, and I could have been a lot smarter in the things and my choices. And so really I think if we can educate, the adults, then the ones that have kids really can start educating their children. And it has this ripple effect where then as their children grow up, when they can start, having sex, then they have the power to choose who and what, and like how to take care of themselves in that.
Can you explain to me what story work is? What does that mean? If you have a story about something and then you change the language, what does all that mean?
Yes. So thank you for that clarification. Yes, I would say it depends on each individual's. So I'll share more for myself. For me, I had a lot of stories around sex and religion. So sex is bad. It's something that should be private. I don't talk about it. It's just between a man and a woman. So like for me, it was writing all of this stuff, how I felt about sex, the story around it, what I thought it was, how I grew up with it, what I thought it meant, and then looking at it and finding, for example, sex is bad. Well, for me, when I look at that, is that accurate or is it not? And I was like, no, that's not correct. Like, that's not accurate. So how can I make it accurate? Sex is pleasurable. Sex is fun. Sex is, playful. Like, it's just whatever comes up. And so it helps shift how we look at it. And then it helps move it through our bodies. And my thought too is like, and then learning how to be like, oh, it is fun. So I can talk about it. Now I can play and explore in these ways because I don't have this belief that it's bad anymore. I have this belief that it's pleasurable and it's playful and it's fun and it's adventurous, and now I can show up more like that for myself and for my partner.
So just by changing, yeah. And just by changing one word,
Mm-hmm.
it changes your belief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then your beliefs are what guide your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So by literally looking at those 3 words and changing one word, your whole life can change.
Mm-hmm. That one word game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, for me, like I look at like when also, so sex is bad, like, what's my image? What am I imagining? What's my body feeling like? It's like, here, right? I'm more closed off. I'm kind of holding myself, inward. And then when I say sex is pleasurable, it opens me up. I feel more open. I feel it in my body. I want to move around with it. And so it's like really even like along with the belief, shifting that belief, it's also shifting it in our bodies too. And so it's like removing that story, that thought out as well, and allowing your body to feel that too.
I don't think people realize how powerful language is in that way. When you say language is powerful, people think of Martin Luther King and people that have delivered words that affected others, but we don't realize how our words affect ourselves. When you were saying sex is playful, sex is pleasurable, I got goosebumps.
Right? It's like you want to move with it. You're like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
okay, it is. Like, and then for me, that also gives like, well, what does playful look like for you? How does that, then it invites more opportunities, possibilities of discovery of what does playful look like in sex.
That's a whole page that a person could write. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times we haven't even thought of those things. That's your job, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Giving somebody the idea, well, sex is playful, and then poof, they've got a whole new aspect of life that they never thought about it that way before.
Mm-hmm.
And I love those moments where people, or myself, that it's so powerful. And for you to be there and just kind of offer that.
Mm-hmm.
You just said three or four words, and the whole demeanor, everything changed. And now we have all this stuff we can talk about. I don't want to talk about sex is bad or what that means or why is it bad. Like, you just move that to the side and let's talk about why it's pleasurable and why it's playful and how you can live into it and be more of a whole human.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so beautiful because it just opens up, and for me it's like to see that aliveness that comes into people and like the opportunity to really express who they are.
Mm-hmm. Have you seen some pretty big transformations? Do you have any examples in your mind of, you can change the names or the details to protect people's privacy, but these transformations, what does that look like?
Yeah, I've had, there's one would be the kink and vanilla, right?
Mm-hmm.
That really like shifting some of the story around it
Mm-hmm.
of, well, this is what I like. Okay, cool, great. This is what you like. Amazing. How can you play more with what you like? And then like, how can we create comfort and inviting each other into those things? And, oh, I'm not comfortable with that. Okay, well, what are you not comfortable with? Well, what are you making? Are you making something right or wrong? So it's like, just like really diving deep into it. And the more that they were able to dive into it, it was like, created an understanding for where they both were at, and realizing, okay, we do have differences, and we can also really nourish those differences in different ways and take steps. And like, it gave them an opportunity of like, well, this is what I would try. I'm open to this. Cool. That's step one. Let's do that. Well, this is what I like to do. Okay. And so it helped this communication and like this like discovery, and almost bringing back a little bit of that honeymoon phase, that we have when we first start dating. We're together, we have this like yummy, sex is on fire, all this kind of stuff. And then as longer term relationships, it can start kind of fizzling down. And so like stuff like this is what brings that back into the relationship, and it creates more yummy and juicy. And so it's like you're learning about each other all over again.
It sounds like there's a word that I learned that's so beautiful called permissionary. That's a role that I play in my life with the people that I work with and that I'm around. And sounds like what you do. Somebody will come to you with, well, here's the end of our story. I like this and he likes this. And you're like, this is the beginning of the story. And it's a whole brand new chapter that was not even imagined, because people thought, oh, you make a statement and that's a statement, and a statement is not a statement. It is words and meaning and all of these things, and you're there to like blow it all up for people.
Oh, yes, I love that, permissionary. Yes, that's what I love doing. I love giving permission for me to think outside of here's what I've been thinking. It's this little box. And there's also all other kinds of shapes and sizes. So how can I help expand that box just a little bit more? Look at things just a little bit different and see if you still want to stay in that box. And that's great if you do. Perfect. And there's also an opportunity to like find a new box. New shape, new thing, new right?
Shape. Yeah.
knock the box down, really.
Yeah. Take down the walls and open up the whole world to people. What's a good way to get in touch with you if someone is super stoked and wants to delve into this? How are you available?
Yes, Instagram is the best way right now. So my Instagram is at Ashley_Bledsoe_.
Nice. And are you're currently have your programs are in development, so that is upcoming?
Yes, it is upcoming. So I'm in the process of I'm hoping to have it out by this month. So I do private coaching, and then my programs will be more group that I've upgraded. But I have like a little mini product that I'm hoping I'm going to have done by the end of this month, where it's you can go through it on your own. And it's called the Relationship Recon. Reignite the honeymoon phase.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So that one's a fun little one where anyone and everyone can do it, whether they're in a relationship or not. It is geared towards relationship, but it's also made to help people create a really strong foundation of keeping up the yummy and juiciness of like connection with each other. So it's also great for someone who is single or not in a relationship to bring into their future relationship right off the bat.
What is one thing that you would advise people to do if people want to open up their world? What's something super easy that someone can look at to really begin this process? What do you think?
Question. I would say journal. Journaling is a powerful tool, and I would say journal what relationship means to you.
What relationship means to you.
Yeah, like what does a relationship mean to you? How do you want to show up? How do you want your partner to show up? What does it look like? Feel like? Really start, as we've learned in Lifted, when you write it out, so much more is going to come true for it, right? You can really look at it and be like, oh, now I know goals, things to set, things to do in order to create this. And so it's like really writing it out and looking at what's the story of a relationship? What do you want in a relationship? Not what you don't want, but what you want.
Focus on the good things, what you want to see happen. What would a perfect
How you
date look
communicate,
like?
how you fight.
Yeah.
How do you fight? I mean, fights happen, right? So do you want a loving, gentle dialogue when it comes to, arguments? Right? So it's like when we disagree, I want it to be open discussion where we have gentle dialogue and we show each other love and compassion and understanding, where we hear each other's sides, and then we can make a decision on what direction we want to go. So it's like learning that, what you want.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, well, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want any more of this and that and this and that. Well, cool. That's not going to go anywhere. Let's talk about what you do want.
That makes sense. And it makes sense as a coach that if that is where someone would start to explore, because I think everybody can hit a brick wall at some point. You can write it all out, write what you want, and then what? Then what?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they call you.
And then they call me.
And then
and then they do the relationship recon, then they do the communication codes program, and then they do the sex edition, and then they're set for life.
Yeah, then you rocket ship just like out of this dreary, defined right and wrong area that we're down here.
Yeah, and it's like, it's really looking at, we're shown relationships. This is what it looks like, or what it's supposed to look like, and there's really no one way a relationship is. Like, we get to create whatever type of relationship we want. And so really that's what I love being able to do with couples, with clients when they come to me, is like, you get to navigate and you get to create the relationship that you want as a couple. You get to co-create it. It doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It's yours and it's unique, and you get to do and be however you want. And that's so powerful. It's like, oh, you can get ideas from other people. You can like how, you can be inspired by people in their relationships and be like, I like that. What are they doing? How are they being? Okay, cool. How can I bring that into my relationship as well? How can I learn what they're doing and be inspired and bring that in and have that for us as well?
And it doesn't have to look any certain way. I love that freedom, that love is love, and we can relate as humans in any way that we are comfortable with. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's really beautiful.
Yeah. I think we're so set in monogamy, and it's great. Monogamy is great. And also there's so many other ways to explore in a relationship. And so it's like, even talking about monogamy, what does that mean? How do I feel like, how do I feel about it? Am I open to more than that? What does that look like? What does that bring up for me? What fears, what feelings, what emotions comes up for me when I think about, and not being a monogamous, monogamy relationship. And then like, how would I feel? Like, just really like allowing yourself to open that up, and just talk about it. Cause that's also something you can share with your partners, like how you feel about those types of things too.
And I think a lot of times people are not even sure how they define these words. They're just, that's just how it is. It's just a how it is kind of thing. We don't question it. Well, how do you define sex?
Exactly.
That in itself is, we could talk the rest of the day.
Right? Yeah. What does sex mean to you? What is it? How do you define it? Like, what is it? What do you want it to be? And so it's like really allowing yourself to look at those and write it out and read it and be like, wow, okay, well, this is true. Yes. This is accurate for me. This is accurate. How, maybe I want to shift this a little bit.
And I'm sure you offer, each person gets so much clarity on themselves. A lot of times we go into things like, this guy, he's doing this stuff that I don't like. How are we going to fix it?
How are we going to fix him?
How are we going to fix this guy? Or my girlfriend, or my two girlfriends. And it's not about other people. It's only about what's in here. And you change this and it changes everything. It's so freeing and gratifying.
So freeing. So yeah, it really is. There's so much aliveness that can come from that. Like I said, it's freeing. It's freedom. For me, freedom is aliveness.
I was just going to say that the definition of life, having that freedom to define yourself and make yourself the life that is exactly what you want. And then you can change it.
Mm-hmm.
You're still free to do that.
Yeah. And that's what's so great about this work is this could be where you go, and then maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, you decide to shift a little bit of your relationship, right? Because you've explored and expanded in so many ways. But like, oh wait, maybe let's try operating in this way, you know? And it's your birthday coming up. What do you think about bringing in someone in the room with us? How would that feel? You know, like that might not even been a thing to be questioned or said, but because of the opportunity to play and explore and open up our really in finding and designing the relationship allows so many more possibilities of like, oh, well, that could be something fun, or no, I'm not feeling that, you know, like really allowing those possibilities as well, and being able to communicate like, okay, cool, it was just a thought, or yeah, let's do it. Okay, well, you know, let's play and explore this. How would that look like? What would we want to do, you know? Yeah.
And a lot of people wouldn't feel safe to even bring that up to begin with. And then the other person might not feel safe receiving it or responding back. So that opening up of being able to address things, speak about them, feel safe. And then over time, you bust out the blueprint again. And you mentioned the want, will, won't list.
Yes.
And I've read through that. It's like 8 pages of sexual things you can do that are possible that maybe you hadn't even heard of, maybe you hadn't even thought of. And you can go through this and open up your mind, check off will, want, won't. And then maybe a year later, you look at it and, oh my God, I was like that. You know, and then you have this growth, and you can revisit those things.
This is definitely a want now.
Fill it out in pencil.
That's right. It's not pencil. Yes. So that's a magical worksheet that, again, Alexa, she created, and it's so powerful because, like you said, it's a huge list of all these different things, from soft to hard, as we, you know, describe them, from like, you know, rubbing, you know, maybe like little spanking, licking, to
flicking was in there. I like the
flicking. Yeah, flicking, to, you know, harder stuff.
Yes, it is extensive.
And, you know, like all this, and you get to, here's the receiver, here's the giver, where are you at on both of those sides, right? So maybe you're willing to give something that you may not be willing to receive, right? So it's like really learning, and it just has you question and be curious. Well, I'm okay with that, you know, and then it's like there's things on there, you're like, wow.
I had that experience too. It was so fun to read through, and I was like, I'll just skim over this. And then I was just, okay. I like what you've done here. I really like that. Hadn't thought of that one.
We're like, ooh. And that's another, like gives opportunity, like you said, to play and explore, you know. It's like, well, let's try this out. Let's try this out. Right. So it's amazing.
And people get embarrassed. You read through it, you're like, oh my God, flick my what? You know? But it's humans being humans and playing, and it's all beautiful. And that getting over that hump of sex being embarrassing, or your body being embarrassing, or what you like being embarrassing, throw that stuff in the trash.
Yeah. It's like you get to like, you know, in partnership, it's like learning to create that space to have the open communication, the freedom to communicate all desires, wants, needs, and then being able to navigate through them and share where you're at on them, and just be curious of how can we operate, how can we pull this in, try it out, what can we do, you know, it's just so much more play in a relationship when that happens.
And even if you feel not adventurous and you really are not into 7 of those pages, but just 1 page worth, that's okay too.
Exactly. Yeah.
If that's your flavor, dude, go for it.
Have fun with it, right? Like it's like you can still enhance, and that's I guess really the word is enhance. Like these things are to help enhance your relationship, enhance your life, enhance yourself, enhance. You know, it's like it's just things, ideas to try, to play with and explore and enhance.
That's gorgeous. I'm so happy you are out in this landscape, helping humans get in touch with themselves and each other. And I would really encourage anybody that's out there that's interested in this kind of thing. Obviously, you just met Ashley, and she's a joy.
Thank you.
That giggle,
You
she's
too.
a joy. We are planning a retreat coming up. We haven't met in real life, but we're planning a women's coaches retreat coming up. And I can't wait to meet you in person and talk about all this stuff.
I know to like hug you. I feel
I know.
it feels like we know each other. I mean, we do, and we haven't met in person, physicalness. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to it for sure.
It's going to be super fun. And I'm really glad that your programs are coming out soon and that we could get the word out. If anybody's interested, look her up on Instagram, Ashley Bledsoe, Ashley_Bledsoe_. And you just find her and that's all you need. She'll give you the information that you need. And if you're interested in the Enlifted program, yes, yay, Mark England. That is all about the language and the stories that we mentioned earlier, but is a huge topic that can really change your life. So get in touch with either of us or look up Mark England in the Enlifted program. I would encourage that as well. I love coaching and I love coaches and I love a coaching relationship. And I would encourage people to reach out if you have questions and want guidance on anything. If you want some information that you think we might know about, reach out to either of us and ask a question. And we know a lot of coaches and programs and things like that and can guide you to the next thing that might be on your horizon.
Yes, we have like we have an abundance of coaches.
Yes, anything you have going on, there's going to be a person that can speak directly to you. I agree. Well, thank you so much for being here with me. This was so fun. I can't believe the hour went by so fast.
It did go fast. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Next week, we have Michelle Janai,
Woohoo!
kettlebell and steel mace coach. What the heck is a steel mace? Well, I guess you have to tune back in and see. And it's a super exciting new mode of movement and working out that is super interesting, super fun, and different than what you've seen before if you haven't seen steel mace before. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you
so much. I can't wait to see you in person.
I know. It's like a month away.
Yeah, like 4 weeks. So you guys watch out. If in about 4 weeks you hear some kind of sonic boom type of thing and you're like, what? That was all of us women coaches coming together in the same arena. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. You have a great day and thanks again. And
thank you. You too.
I love you.
I love you.
Thanks for being you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here. Yes, love you.
Bye.
Bye.